Compliments of the season, everyone. Here's to hoping 2022 is a banging year. In January 2020, the Gauteng Division of the High Court, Pretoria and Johannesburg implemented an electronic case management and litigation system called CaseLines. The effect of said implementation is that most administrative and practical court activity now takes place electronically. As you should know, it has not been the easiest transition. However, CaseLines is proving to be a step in the right direction when it comes to ease and efficiency of filing and presenting matters. There's been some confusion when it comes to CaseLines, particularly due to the large number of practice directives that have been released over the last 2 years. It feels like as soon as we familiarize ourselves with a certain directive, a new one is released, which both replaces and retains certain provisions in the prior directives. Therefore, the purpose of today's discussion is to provide a practical explanation on how to navigate and work the site to benefit attorneys, advocates, and clients. Our discussion will be broken up into a number of episodes so as to avoid potential confusion. This episode will focus on creating cases, uploading documents, and applying for unopposed dates, such as default and summary judgment dates. Take note, there is a strong possibility that future directives may render some of the contents of this episode incorrect. It is imperative that you stay on top of the directives. Guys, according to our channel's analytics, most of our viewers are not subscribers, so please remember to hit that subscribe button and check out our social media pages if you have not already done so. The links thereto can be found in the video description below. On to the episode. Creating cases. If you are an attorney or candidate in Gauteng, you will know that summonses and notices of motion are still issued physically at court. It is only after the issuing thereof that a case will be created on CaseLines. When issuing a summons, remember to accompany therewith the statement indicating the category of the matter, as well as the other documents required, which may differ depending on whether you are proceeding out of Joburg or Pretoria. For example, remember to include a scanner sheet if you are proceeding in Joburg. Once you've issued your summons or notice of motion, you will need to create a case on CaseLines so that you can upload same thereto. To access CaseLines, search for www.sajustice.caselines.com in your browser. Make sure you are logged into your account. If you do not have an account, you will need to create one. For those who have already created an account, click on the tab View Case List, which will take you to your cases already created. Directly below the heading Case List, you'll see a question asking whether you would like to create a case. The words Create a Case are illustrated as a clickable option. Click on it. You'll now see that you can create a new case. Where it says Use Template, click on the appropriate court's template. For example, if you're in Johannesburg, click on Court User Group Template, Johannesburg High Court. Next, you need to insert the case name. The case name will consist of the party's details. For example, Fenter P vs Andrews H, XYZ CC vs ABC Pty Ltd. But before the parties' names, you must indicate what type of matter your case is. For example, the full name of your case should look something like Unopposed Motion, Rule 43 Application, Fenter S vs Fenter E, Unopposed Motion, Summary Judgment, Killian L vs Pillay R, Opposed Motion, Eviction Application, City of Ekurhuleni vs City of Johannesburg, Opposed Motion, Interlocutory Application, SXL vs Esquire Sports Pty Ltd, JCMC vs an F category, Van Lille R vs Van Lille F, JCMC Y category, Kunene X vs MEC of Health Gauteng, Civil Trial D category, Samai S vs Nkosi D, Civil Trial C category, Filter Coffee South Africa vs Starbucks, Trial Interlocutory, Compel Compliance, Zakata T vs RAF, Settlements Court, Y category, Pillay V vs RAF. So there's many more of those. To explain a bit better, I'll provide an example. You've issued summons in a commercial matter. The next step is to create a case on CaseLines. As the matter is commercial in nature, the name of the case will look as follows: Civil Trial, C category, Filter Coffee South Africa versus Starbucks. But what happens if you receive no notice of intention to defend, and as a result, you're proceeding to default judgment? The matter will no longer be a civil trial, obviously. So all you need to do is change the name to Unopposed Motion, Default Judgment, X versus Y Pty Ltd, or whatever the name of your case is, if it's the filter coffee, whatever. If the nature of the case changes again, simply adjust the prefix accordingly. The next requirement is to enter the reference. The reference is merely the case number, recorded with the year in full and without any zeros preceding the number. For example, 2005/44, 2012/123, 2019/93222, etc. With regards to the front page entry, you'll see the option to Get from Template. Click on that. If you do not see Get from Template, that is because you haven't selected the template you'll be using, for example, Joburg High Court template. You may not add or modify any information on the front page except for adding the case number and parties details. For all other intents and purposes, such as date allocations and endorsements, the front page is for the registrar's use only. Click Create Case. You now have your case. You should receive a number of emails indicating that certain people have been added to the case. This happens automatically and is normal. Uploading documents. This first section will be applicable for attorneys representing the plaintiff or the applicant depending on the nature of your matter. Before we can upload documents to our case, we need to create sections. To create the relevant sections, click on the Sections tab at the top in between Index and People. In our example, we have just issued summons, so we need to create a section under which we can file our summons. So go ahead and click Create New Section. Under section number, insert 1 or 01. For section title, you'll insert Combined Summons. Insert 1 or 01 again for section order. This is not strictly necessary and can be left blank. Leave the two drop-down options as a default. Click Create. You now have your first section. Very important, you may create cases differently. This tutorial explains how we create cases. Please also be reminded that we are not affiliated with CaseLines or the judiciary. Click on Sections again. You should now see your Combined Summons section. Click on Upload Files. Next, you can either drag the file you want into the box, alternatively you can click Add Files. After you have added or dragged the file you want, click Start Upload. Once your file has been uploaded, go and click on Review at the top between Case Home and Index. You will likely receive a note stating that there are no documents in the paginated bundle, Master Bundle. This is because it takes a few moments for recently loaded documents to be paginated. Give it 5 minutes and then click Review again. You should now see your Combined Summons section. Click on it to see your uploaded paginated summons. The procedure is no different where you institute a proceedings by way of notice of motion. The section would simply be referred to as Notice of Motion and not Combined Summons. The other difference would be the case's name. Remember, you name the case at the case creation stage. Motions are unopposed until they are formally opposed. Therefore, in this instance, the name of the case would be Unopposed Motion, then you would insert the type X versus Y. Should the matter subsequently become opposed, you will simply edit the name to reflect Opposed Motion. Let's go back to our example where we instituted proceedings by way of the summons. You'll need to serve the summons as usual, namely via the sheriff. Upon receipt of the returns of service, you will upload same to CaseLines. To do so, follow the exact same procedure as you did with the summons, except the number and name of the section will be different. Create a section called Returns of Service and mark it as number 2. Go ahead and upload the returns of service to the section. Extremely important, upon filing the return of service of the summons, you must in the prescribed form state the date in terms of the rules of court upon which the notice of intention to defend is due and the date in terms of the rules of court upon which a plea is due if notice of intention to defend was given timelessly. A template of the above is annexed to the revised directive dated 11 June 2021, marked Form 2. The form must be uploaded to CaseLines under the Returns of Service section. Take note that you must also create 2 additional mandatory sections on CaseLines. These sections are Judicial Remarks. This section is for use by judges only. Do not upload anything thereto. Invitation List. Uploaded to this section must be a list of all attorneys, advocates, and clients, or other persons who you invited to the case, together with their email addresses and, where applicable, telephone numbers. No court staff are to be included in this list. With regards to the numbering of the aforementioned sections, we prefer to number them 00 or 01, etc., so that the chronology of the pleadings and notices remain the same. You'll take no further steps until such time as you receive a notice of intention to defend or oppose, or the DS afforded to the defendant respondent to oppose a matter expires. The next section applies to attorneys acting on behalf of the defendant/respondent in a matter. Where a summons or a notice of motion has been served on your client, and you wish to defend or oppose the matter, you will obviously serve and file the requisite notice. Simultaneously with serving your notice, request from the plaintiff or the applicant's attorneys that they invite you to the case on CaseLines so that you can file same. Previously, filing meant taking the served notice to court and having same stamped by the registrar. At present, filing equates to uploading the served notice or pleading to CaseLines. When uploading your notice to CaseLines, if the plaintiff's attorneys have done their job correctly, you should see a section for compliance summons or notice of motion and a second section for returns of service. If so, you will merely create a new section titled Notice of Intention to Defend or Notice of Intention to Oppose and mark it as number 3. You can then proceed to upload your Notice of Intention to Defend or Oppose together with proof of service, in other words, the email to which the notice was attached. Take note that you must, upon delivering your client's Notice of Intention to Defend or Oppose in the prescribed form, furnish details of an email address and contact person to whom all communications must be sent. A template setting out the prescribed form is annexed to the June 2021 revised directive marked Form 3. You'll merely upload this form under Notice of Intention to Defend or Oppose, whichever one is applicable. Where the proceedings are based on an action, you will subsequently file your plea, exception, application to strike out, or whatever it might be after your Notice of Intention to Defend. Create the relevant section and number it as 4. Where you are opposing a notice of motion, you will likely file your answering affidavit next. Let's go back to the plaintiff or the applicant quickly. If you receive a notice of intention to defend or oppose, proceed to invite the defendant or the respondent's attorneys to CaseLines. To do this, click on the People tab between Download and Redactions. Click on Add People. You should now see a list of the court staff automatically invited to the case. Click on Invite New Participant. Type in the attorney's email, select Attorney, and click Invite. We usually have all the permission boxes ticked. You can leave the expiry date field blank. The attorney will now be invited to the case. Take note that if the defendant or the respondent's attorneys fail to upload their notices and pleadings to CaseLines, as Dominus Litis, you must do so. Applying for dates. General information to note when applying for unopposed dates, which includes unopposed motions, default judgments, and unopposed summary judgments, etc. When applying for an unopposed date, you must complete and upload a date application form, a directive compliance declaration, and a blank notice of set down, which is a normal set down, but it's just excluding the hearing date. The date application form can be found annexed to the recent Notice to All Litigation Attorneys in Gauteng in respect of innovations in the organization of the Motion Court in Johannesburg. The notice is dated 29 November 2021. Take note that there is a new date application form to be used from January 2022 onwards. You can complete the form in pen and upload it. The Directive Compliance Declaration must state, I, then you insert your name, hereby certify that I am in compliance with this consolidated directive in that I have done the following. And you must set out exactly what you complied with. You must also confirm that no duplicate file for the matter exists on CaseLines and that all parties or their representatives have been invited to the case. The names of all parties or their representatives and their telephone numbers and email addresses should reflect on the declaration. Where no statement or declaration is filed, the registrar will not allocate a hearing date. With regards to the date application form section and directive compliance declaration section, you can also number them 00 or 03, etc. Make a section for each. We like to have a separate numbering system for the pleadings and notices and another one for the administrative documents. The notice of set down will be the usual, except there will be a blank space where the hearing date should be. We will discuss this more shortly. We also like to upload the draft order simultaneously with the notice of set down. Once you've created the sections and uploaded the documents, you can invite the correct provisional enrollment registrar. Take note that the registrar must be invited between the hours of 9 and 3 only. The registrar will allocate a date within a few days or weeks after being invited to the case. We'll be looking at a few of the specified types of unopposed matters next. Take note that this episode only covers up until a provisional date is allocated. A Final enrollment, etc. will be discussed in the next episode. Default judgment. Category Y matters. Where the defendant fails or refuses to file a notice of intention to defend, or defends the matter but is subsequently barred, the plaintiff must apply to the registrar for a default judgment date in the trial's interlocutory court. The office profiles to be invited to enroll trial interlocutory applications, including Y category default judgments, are in Pretoria, PTA-U trials interlocutory at judiciary.org.za. This is where a trial date has been allocated. PTA-Y interlocutory at judiciary.org.za, where no trial date has been allocated. In Johannesburg, it's JHB trial interlocutory at judiciary.org.za. To invite the registrar, go to Persons and enter the email address and click Invite. If you want, add an invitation note requesting that a default judgment date be allocated. Don't change any of the permissions. Upon being satisfied that the plaintiff is compliant, the registrar will allocate a date in the trial interlocutory court and notify the parties accordingly. Date allocation tends to take between 1 to 2 weeks in Joburg, but in Pretoria it often takes longer. To see whether a date has been allocated, click on the tab View Case List on the main toolbar at the top. You will now see all the cases you're a part of. There is a heading above your cases which states Next Hearing Date. The date allocated will reflect thereunder. If it does not reflect thereunder, go into the case by clicking on Review Evidence and see whether the registrar has allocated a date by way of leaving a note on the case. The notes can be found in the column to the right-hand side of the page. Final set-down etc. will not be discussed in this episode. Category C, D, P, and F matters. Should you be in a position to apply for default judgment in respect to the above categories of matters, you must upload your date application form, directive compliance declaration, and notice of set-down with the hearing date submitted. Create a section for your notice of set-down and upload it. If you want to upload your draft order as well, do so. Create a separate section for your draft order. You must obviously also upload your application for default judgment with the hearing date submitted. This is what we mean when we say date omitted. The office profiles to be invited in order to have default judgment date allocated are in Pretoria, PTA-U default applications at judiciary.org.za, in Johannesburg, JHB-U provisional at judiciary.org.za. You will follow the exact same procedure as set out already with regards to Y matters. If it is only the actual email address that will differ. To determine whether a date has been allocated, follow the exact same procedure. Default judgment in terms of Rule 31(5). These types of default judgments are lodged with the registrar instead of being heard in open court. You may only proceed with such a default judgment when your client's claim is for a debt or liquidated demand. When proceeding in terms of Rule 31 subsection 5, you are to ensure that the default judgment application and all supporting documentation has been uploaded to CaseLines. Thereafter, you must prepare and upload an affidavit or certificate confirming compliance with Rule 31 subsection 5 subsection A and the latest directive, especially with regards to inviting the defendant to the case on CaseLines. A checklist must also be completed. You will then invite the default judgment registrar to the electronic case file. In Pretoria, it's PTA defaults at judiciary.org.za. In Johannesburg, it's JHB defaults at judiciary.org.za. The default judgment registrar shall invite the allocated registrar to the case. After having considered the application, the registrar shall make a decision in terms of Rule 31 subsection 5, endorse the electronic file with the judgment and amend the prefix to include the outcome. For example, granted Rule 31 subsection 5, Glamini Pty Ltd versus Glamini and Sons CC, as well as invite the typist and statistics office to the case file. Unopposed summary judgment. In the event that you wish to proceed to summary judgment after receiving a plea from the defendant, you will follow a very similar process as that for default judgments. In fact, the process is pretty much the same for most types of unopposed matters. First, make sure everything has been uploaded to CaseLines and that you have amended the case's prefix. Next, upload the following: your summary judgment application with the hearing date submitted, the date application form, make sure you tick S for summary judgment, your directive compliance declaration, a notice of set down with the hearing date submitted, and a draft order. Important advice: as it often takes a while to receive a date, serve and file your summary judgment application before a date is obtained, so that you comply with the rules of court. Once a date is allocated, either serve a notice of set down or simply serve your summary judgment application again with the date reflected thereon. Once you have attended to the aforementioned, you must invite the following profile to obtain a provisional date. In Pretoria, PTAU divorce applications at judiciary.org.za. In Johannesburg, JHBU provisional at judiciary.org.za. You'll then be allocated a date in the usual manner. Other unopposed matters. You guys should now have an idea exactly what to do. The only real difference in the unopposed date application process is the office profiles to be invited to CaseLines. Take note of the office profiles to be invited depending on the nature of your matter. In Pretoria, PTAU divorce applications at judiciary.org.za for unopposed divorce, opposed or unopposed Rule 43, guardianship and summary judgment applications. PTAU default applications at judiciary.org.za for Rule 31 subsection 2 default judgment applications. PTAU insolvency applications at judiciary.org.za for liquidation, rehabilitation, sequestration and surrender of estate. PTAU other applications at judiciary.org.za for all other unopposed applications, including ex parte, interlocutory applications not related to trial, Rule 46, and applications to compel. PTAU interlocutory at judiciary.org.za applications related to trial and for interlocutory applications in terms of Rule 46, subsection 11, 46A, subsection 9D, variation of court orders, applications to compel heads of argument, transfer of matters, consent to judgment, confirmation of settlement agreements, substituted service, edictal citations, applications for curatorship, interim payments, applications to compel the HPCSA to make a decision on the RAF4 forms, and other non-Y interlocutory applications. With regards to a non-Y category trial matter that has a trial date, the trial set-down notice must be uploaded. And admissions PTA at judiciary.org.za for admissions of legal practitioners. In Johannesburg, JHBU provisional at judiciary.org.za for unopposed applications, unopposed divorce, opposed and unopposed Rule 43, unopposed summary judgment, ex parte applications, unopposed interlocutory applications. JHB admissions at judiciary.org.za for trial interlocutory applications and admission of legal practitioners. Take note that in instances where you require specific dates to be allocated due to counsel's availability or non-availability or another valid reason, a CaseLines note to that effect may be made for the registrar's consideration. Such date requests should be for a date range, for example, last week of June, and not for a specific date, and should be sufficiently motivated. Guys, that concludes this week's episode on CaseLines. We've got many more CaseLines episodes to come, so if you find this helpful, give us a like so we can get an idea that we're going in the right direction. Please also remember to subscribe. A lot of our viewers are not subscribed. You'll be doing us a huge favor. Thanks, guys.